The terms casket and coffin are often used interchangeably, but their use as synonyms is no open and shut case. Coffins are actually those 8-sided burial boxes that are narrower at the bottom. Think Dracula. Whereas caskets are rectangular. They can be made of metal, plastic, or wood. Whether the wood is ash, oak, mahogany, or something else, the casket's construction is generally the same. First, they run wood slats through a machine called a molder. This profiles the edges, carving a tongue on one side of each slat and a groove on the other. A worker applies glue to these edges, then positions the slats in a rounded vise that locks the tongues and grooves together. The glue dries in an hour and a half, bonding the slats permanently into a large curved piece. This piece will form the top and long sides of the casket's rectangular cover. To complete the rectangle, a worker now makes a V-shaped cut on each side and glues in a triangular piece of slatted wood. While a press clamps the components tightly together, he secures the end pieces in place with joint fasteners, which are like heavy-duty staples. Now a machine carves a groove into the cover's underside at the midpoint. A worker glues in a wooden piece, securing it with joint fasteners. This piece is called the bridge, and it's the point at which the cover will be cut in half later on. They transfer the casket cover to an automated machine that gives it a rough sanding, then a finer sanding. The next step is to attach a decorative molding to the base of the casket cover. This molding has a groove on the inside into which they'll later tuck the edge of the casket's upholstery fabric. A worker glues a small piece of wood in the groove at the midpoint so the groove won't show when the cover is open. Now he saws the casket cover in two, right through the bridge. Meanwhile, another worker assembles the bottom of the casket called the box. He glues together the sides and applies a bottom molding, securing everything with joint fasteners. At this point, the box is upside down. He attaches the bottom, then flips the box right side up. Now it's time to join the cover and box using 4 hinges. They spray the casket with one of countless shades of wood stain, then rub it in equally over the entire surface. The casket goes into an oven for an hour to dry the stain. Next, a worker sprays on 2 coats of lacquer with 40 minutes drying time between applications. This happens to be a high gloss finish, but many models have a duller sheen. Once the lacquer dries, a worker attaches handles. The more expensive the casket, the fancier the features. This higher-end oak model with decorative corners has wood and metal swing handles. Other models have all-metal swing handles or fixed bars made of wood, metal, or both. The fancier caskets also have an adjustable wooden bed inside with a mechanism to adjust the height. A worker covers the bed in fabric. The base model bed is made of absorbent paper laid over a product called wood wool, which is simply shredded wood. The upholsterer lines the inside of the casket with foam, covering it with either velvet, satin, or silk polyester crepe. By folding, nailing, and stapling this fabric a certain way, she creates pleats, tufting, and other design details. Generally, the more expensive the casket, the finer the fabric, and the more ornate the upholstery. A decorative trim hides the staples. Fabric straps or metal elbow brackets hold the cover open. When it comes to how beautiful and elaborate caskets can be, the ground's the limit.
When some innovative caveman invented the bow and arrow, it was a huge breakthrough. The discovery turned the Homo sapien into an efficient hunter-gatherer. These days, archery has made a comeback in the hunting community, and it's even been reclassified as an Olympic sport. So you could say, the caveman's invention is still right on the mark. Today's bows are definitely not primitive devices. Crafted with calculated precision, they make it easier for you to take your best shot, and the caveman would have been very impressed. To make a longbow, a craftsman cuts 6 strips of cherry wood a little more than half a centimeter thick using a bandsaw. Then with a belt sander, he repeatedly thins the wood strips on both sides, tapering the ends a little each time. The tapering gives the wood some flexibility, which the bow will need to launch arrows into the air. With his bandsaw, he now carves a handle from a piece of wood. Next, he brushes super adhesive glue onto fiberglass strips and the tapered strips of cherry wood. He works swiftly because the glue will start to dry in less than an hour. Now he layers the strips. The fiberglass strips buttress the 6 glued wood strips on either end. This process is called lamination. Next, he glues the wood handle to the fiberglass and wood lamination. And he tops it with a piece of masking tape to protect it from scratches and glue smudges during the next steps. Now the laminates get the squeeze. He places them on a curved plywood shape called a bow form. He positions a steel heat strip, a rubber hose, and another plywood form on top of the laminates. He clamps it all together, then inflates the rubber hose with an air compressor. The pressure from the hose combined with the heat from the metal strip mold the wood to the bow shape as the glue sets. 1 hour later, he removes the laminates, nicely pressed and glued into more bow-like curves. Now he draws the bow form onto the newly curved lamination, following a template made of fiberglass. With his bandsaw, he cuts the wood along the lines he's just drawn. He cuts an arrow shelf. That's the notch for the arrow to rest as the archer aims. Then he trims the handle, making it a little wider at the center for comfort. Next, using a coarse-toothed file, he hollows out little grooves in the upper and lower limbs of the bow. They're called string nocks, and the string will loop around them. To strengthen the tips, he glues little pieces of fiberglass and moose horn over them and the freshly filed nocks. He clamps it in a vice grip to set. When it's dry, he files through the horn and fiberglass to bring back the nock groove. He smooths it with sandpaper. Now he glues another piece of wood over the handle to improve the look and feel of it. He clamps it together while the glue dries, and 3 hours later, he sands it. Next, he wraps the handle in a piece of leather and stitches it together with nylon thread called artificial sinew. Many years ago, they used the tendons of an animal for thread. The leather will make the bow easier to grip. With a gel pen, he writes a serial number on the back of the bow, along with the draw weight. This bow will hold about 20 kilograms of pressure in check when it's drawn. This is a Flemish string jig, a wood fixture with posts on it. He loops nylon string around the posts. This is how he measures the string. It's always 4 inches shorter than the bow. He cuts it with a utility knife, then rolls wax onto it to make it easier to work with. He measures some string. Then he twists 16 strands of nylon, 8 black and 8 white, into a braid with loops on the ends. He hooks the string on the nocks, and it's time for target practice. As he bends the bow, energy is stored. He releases it, and the energy propels the pointed projectile. That apple didn't have a chance.